So, flashback to like 2014, 2015-ish. I remember seeing this meme. It was like a picture of Dipper from Gravity Falls, and the caption read, "When you find out that they're making a Lego Ninjago movie to be released in 2017. And after reading that meme, I was like that. I was like the Dipper meme. I was very excited, which is very strange because this is when I was in middle school and I was not yet really like in the fandom. I had casually kept up with the show and I had watched the first 2 seasons a bunch with my brother, but I wasn't in it, you know? A couple years go by, I forget about it. Eventually the first trailer comes out. I click on it, I watch it, it's a fine trailer. I do remember thinking, something's a little off about this. The movie eventually comes out, I go to see it in theaters, I'm having a great time with it, laughing up a storm, but I do remember the main thought as I was leaving the theater was, well, it's definitely the weakest of the Lego movies. And when I got home, I went online. And people were mad about this film. The fans were not vibing with it. I saw constant discussion about the discarded concepts for this movie that were closer to the show, more show accurate, how much better of a movie it would have been, what a disgrace it is that the end product was what we got. All these newbies are coming into the space based off of the movie, and they're confused, and the show is changing because of the movie. This was clearly a poorly thought out disaster. Now, I was not one of the newbies who entered because of the movie, but what did pull me in was the teaser for season 8, which is the season immediately following the movie. They released the first couple minutes of footage from the season along with all of these changes that were happening because of the movie, and that pulled me face first into the fandom space. And I have not yet figured out how to escape. I walked away from the Lego Ninjago movie, having a good time, not really thinking about it too much. I don't have any hard feelings towards this movie, is what I'm trying to say. But I have since become a major Ninjago nerd. This franchise has become vastly more important to me and takes up way more of my brain space, and yet I have never rewatched the Lego Ninjago movie. Not out of any malice, I just never had the urge to rewatch it. But with my feelings on the franchise changing so much since the first time I've seen it, I figured I would give it a rewatch and share my opinions with you. Because I feel like I have these dual perspectives fighting for dominance inside me. There's like the film major half of me that appreciates cinema and wants to acknowledge a job well done, just irrespective of anything. And then there's the Ninjago fanatic part of me that has a 2,000-page document compiling all of the transcripts of every episode of the show. So yeah, let's watch this thing. It is 9:30 a.m. on a Monday, and I'm going to be watching the Lego Ninjago movie by myself. So I don't know if that's like sad or like a really chill thing to be doing, but here we are. I lied. I watched it yesterday and now I'm filming the commentary over. It's the magic of editing. Now, adapting Ninjago into a movie was a very tough assignment. Ninjago, when the movie came out, had 7 seasons of content under its belt, along with some of the most convoluted lore, weird aging and time travel, backstories that straight up don't make sense. It's hard. I'm not gonna pretend like this wasn't a difficult task. And I am a firm believer that adapting anything into any new medium is going to require a significant amount of change, but it's about how you change things, what you choose to keep, what you choose to add that really matters. So let's run down just some of the base level differences between the show and the movie. The first and maybe most notable one is that in the movie, all the ninja are just like normal kids going to high school who have this secret identity. And in the show, that is definitely not the case. All of the ninja live together in one centralized base, and they don't go to school. They never have gone to school. Ninjaing is just their full-time job. Also in the show, they don't have secret identities. Lloyd hiding his identity as the Green Ninja is a major plot point in the movie, and in the show, it just is never a thing. They're not actively making any efforts to conceal their identities. And because they're full-time superheroes and also their family and friend group are all the same people, it doesn't really make sense to have secret identities. The dynamic between Lloyd and Garmadon, which is the whole core of the movie, is also very different in the show. In the movie, it's very antagonistic because Garmadon left him as a kid. And in the show, that sentiment is never there. Lloyd used to look up to his dad a lot, and after becoming a ninja, he still has a lot of sympathy for him and wants to turn him to the good side. The antagonism that we see in the movie doesn't exist in the show. Most of our characters also have minor or major changes. For example, in the show, Lloyd starts out as a villain and a small little kid, and then he later becomes the Green Ninja and grows up to be like the same age as the rest of the ninja, and that transformation takes place over the whole of the first 2 seasons. Garmadon is one of the main villains of the show, but he isn't central and singular in the way that he is in the movie. He is the main villain of the pilot episodes, and then he's just sort of floating around in the world after that. Garmadon, also in the show, unlike the movie, is not evil just 'cause. He was bitten by a snake, which slowly turned him evil over a number of years.
Garmadon was bitten by a snake. That's a canon thing. He did not get his arms from being bit by the snake, but that is why he is evil.
He is compelled by like these natural forces to do these awful things, and a lot of times he expresses regret at having to do them. Wu in the movie is pretty unchanged from the show. He is brothers with Garmadon. He is a super cryptic leader for the ninja. I think he's probably one of the most accurate characters from the show.
Also, Wu wanting to do things by himself that everybody should be doing. Thing in the show.
The one difference being that in show, he is in a love triangle with Lloyd's mother and Garmadon. For the record, there was no need to adapt this, and I'm glad they left it out. Now, Lloyd's mom is not Coco like she is in the movie. She is Misako in show. She is a researcher and explorer, and Lloyd is arguably on worse terms with her than he is with his dad. She was absent for most of his life because honestly, because the writers forgot to include her until season 2. This change, most of the fandom agrees, is for the better. Misako is not especially loved by the fan base or anything. Zane, in show, like in the movie, is a robot. However, in show, he is a much more humanoid robot. He did not even know he was a robot for most of his life. And in the movie, they just take the robot character trait and crank it up to 11, and that's his one defining feature.
I do like Zane. It's a different take on Zane, but they're simplifying all of the side characters so that they can get all of them in, which I do appreciate that it's a big ensemble cast and they wanted to include everybody, and so they're reducing all the side characters a little bit more to simplify them, and I think what they ended up with works. Even going into the idea that Zane in this is like obliviously, he wants to be human but is obliviously super not human, falls totally in line with Zane's character in the show, that he, sees himself as human, really wants to be human, even though, he's weird and a little bit different, maybe not the same way as in the movie, but I think it really works here.
Nia, both in show and in movie, is a girl bossified girl boss to the extreme. She is very aggressive and independent in both versions. Honestly, her personality comes through very similarly. Both in show and in movie, she is siblings with Kai. Kai is our main character for the pilot episodes and our point of view character for a couple seasons after that. He does not have a super strong presence in the movie, so it's hard to lock down exactly what his character is. If I had to say something, I'd say in the movie, he's a little bit of a meathead, which in the show definitely is more definable as a hothead, because fire, you get it. Cole in the movie is this super chill dude obsessed with music.
I'm gonna talk about Cole for a sec, which I did not think I would have any more thoughts on. But I feel like choosing Cole's chillness is a good, like, aspect of him to adapt.
He has the most devastating power of them all. He's nice to his friends.
Because it's an often overlooked aspect of Cole, but it is super true.
And Jay, I think Jay is the most interesting change. Jay in show is very talkative, quippy, overconfident, but flighty. He is meant to be the comic relief character that all of the kids like. And in the movie, he's very different. He's a lot more soft-spoken, a little bit shy, very nervous, but both of these characters speak their mind fairly easily.
It's strange because the Jay character is so different, but at the same time, I get a lot of the same vibes, and he serves a lot of the same purpose.
This is my new least favorite place I've ever been.
That sounds like it could be a show Jay line.
And for the record, that's another one of my least favorite words!
It's just that the delivery is the opposite of how it would be delivered in show. It's the same sentiment, but drastically different confidence and assertiveness level.
So despite the movie version of Jay being very different, I do like this take on the character. One last thing about Jay is that in show he is in a relationship with Nia, a very messy, convoluted, badly written, frustrating relationship, but it is the primary romantic relationship in the show, and they do drop a couple hints in movie that they might like each other, so I do appreciate that.
In fact, I think I like movie Jaya better than I like in-show Jaya, but in-show Jaya is a mess, so.
And that's all of the characters that carry over from the show. Now, there is a lot in this movie that I really like. I generally really like the sense of humor that this movie has.
This whole montage just has a great tone to it. This bit's still funny. It's a good gag.
It falls in line with the sense of humor of the past Lego movies, and I really like those as well. I think this movie does have a pretty decent emotional core.
That's cute.
The flashback scene with Garmadon and Coco is really, really touching, like more so than I remember.
It's pulling on my heartstrings, man. That's a beautiful shot.
And the ending is really sweet as well. I remember crying in the theater the first time I watched this. These characters have some good chemistry and energy about them. That's always great to see. And of course, the animation is so beautiful.
I do really like the natural elements they incorporated into it. The animation is so good. Look at this. It's so pretty. The lighting. That's a good shot, man.
Those feel like the main things that this movie is trying to accomplish, and it does them. So overall, a really good movie. But that doesn't make it perfect. While the humor is good, it does feel very improv-y, and that can be good, that can be funny, but I feel like there are some bits that go on just a little too long.
Don't get me wrong, it's funny. I feel like it's not optimized to be the most funny. It has the pacing of a YouTube sketch and not necessarily the pacing of a scene in a movie.
Especially in the intro of the movie. I think the movie gets better as it goes on, but the start is not particularly strong for me.
See, like, the first line in this bit was funny. I did like that, but it just keeps going and it doesn't know when to stop.
They're also clearly trying to recreate the energy of the original Lego movie. Garmadon in show is generally not a flamboyant villain. And here you can tell they were pretty much just trying to recreate Lord Business, which I like Lord Business. Great villain. And this does manage to capture a lot of those same tendencies. It's just sort of a knockoff, and so it's not as good. He has like this whole thing with sharks, which to me is obviously trying to jump off of the laser sharks joke in the Lego movie, because sharks have nothing to do with Garmadon in show. And as much as I do like our whole ninja ensemble, I feel like if this was written not being tied to the Ninjago property, some of these characters would be cut. I think we definitely would not have either Kai or Cole, maybe both. It feels like a overly big group for the number of bits that they actually have between the characters. And that's one of the things with this movie, is that it is good. It does have some weaknesses to it. I don't think any of the weaknesses necessarily link directly back to the show, but this isn't really an adaptation of the show.
The end credits song is catchy. It is also like super vague about all of the characters, which I feel is a little bit telling.
This isn't at all representative of the Ninjago property up until this point. And I'm not just saying it because there have been, some superficial changes. I'm saying this because the core of the show is the relationship between the ninja. And that is not the focus of this movie. They are side characters, they are there to support, they are there to make some team banter around the main conflict, but they are not the focus.
They didn't do anything egregious necessarily that's like, oh, that's so not that character or whatever. But it does feel like they didn't really get the point of the show. Like a lot of the key dynamics and just setup and relationship between the characters. The secret identity thing was never a thing. This particular tension between Lloyd and Garmadon, not a thing. And it just feels like they took the concept and they made it into their own thing that they were passionate about, but it doesn't have anything to do with the show.
And just on a fundamental level, if you are even casually a fan of the show, or even just the first 2 seasons of the show, you know that this wasn't made by fans of the show.
Ninja go!
They literalize it to Ninjago, which in the show, it's Ninjago.
Ninja go!
When they do their sort of power cry, it's always with that elongated A, Ninjago.
Ninja!
So, and here it's just not the same.
And there's a lot of things that I could point to here, but I feel like the main one, and the most telling one, is that Ninjago is a show with so many side characters.
Ninjago has so many side characters, and maybe I'm just not super observant or something, but I saw 0 references to any Ninjago side characters anywhere, despite having a very colorful, city of people to work with. You can put a bunch of people in the background of your shots that fans of the show could see and be like, it's that guy.
Why aren't any of these citizens Dareth, or the Doomsday Comics guy, or Gale Gossip? There's a huge focus on the news aspect, and Ninjago has a dedicated newswoman that covers everything that happens. If this show were made by fans of the show, there would be a couple things included that are definitely not here. There's no cameos from the original voice actors.
Ninjago has some really great musical scores. None of that was included here.
Ninjago has a theme of having snakes as villains. They were some of the first villains that the show ever had, and also some of the best villains, and the show repeatedly has additional snake villains throughout its run, so I am pretty surprised that there aren't snakes in this film.
Also, I never understood why Garmadon uses sea creatures in this version, when in the show he's been associated with a lot of different factions, with the snakes, with the skeletons. Sea creatures have never been a part of the show until, just recently with Seabound. So it seems like a really weird thread to bring into Ninjago. If you're gonna do anything, go with snakes, because snakes run through Ninjago's blood, right? So if you're gonna make a Lego Ninjago movie, There better be some snakes in there.
Samurai X is also a large part of the show. Nia, before she was a ninja, was a vigilante with a secret identity, Samurai X. And the title of Samurai X got passed down to another female character after Nia became a ninja.
If you're gonna have an identity reveal for a female character in your Ninjago movie, you could have made her Samurai X.
Samurai X is part of the ninja team, and so the fact that there's zero reference to Samurai X in the whole runtime is very telling. There are like maybe 2 or 3 references to the show total. First, the Weekend Whip.
And of course we have the Weekend Whip there.
This is the theme song for the show. If they didn't include it somewhere in the movie, I think it probably would have been like a crime. This is the most basic level of reference possible. Second, when the ninja unlock their powers, Jay is the first one to do it. It is possible that this isn't a direct reference to the show, but in the pilot episodes, Jay is the first one to learn how to do spinjitzu. Now, I would argue this scene is more akin to them unlocking their true potential, which in that case, Zane would be the first one to do it. But spinjitzu happens first. It's their first big ability get, and Jay is the first one. So I feel like it is possible that that might be a reference. And third, there's a running joke about Lloyd's power being green. This is actually a thing in the show.
What sort of power does the Green Ninja have?
It's some kind of energy or green light. I don't know.
One of the first questions you will have about the elemental powers in the show is, so what exactly is Lloyd's power? There are people who claim they understand how Lloyd's power works. They are getting a lot of information from secondary sources outside of the show. In show, as explained, it doesn't make any sense. He is the green ninja. He has these like green balls of energy. At certain points in the show, he can use the powers of the other ninja. He also has like this kind of golden power, which is gold. It's an ongoing fandom joke. What is Lloyd's power? And this is a consistent through line through the movie. But it is also like, I don't know, baby's first Ninjago in joke. You don't have to be very deep into the show or the fandom to get to this. You just have to have watched season 2, because this is an observation that everybody watching the show makes.
It's green
anybody
power
else.
is what
So
it is.
Power could what?
There's also the fuchsia ninja, which might be a reference to the pink ninja in the show, which is where Zane has to go around in a pink ninja suit because his white suit got put in the wash with Kai's red suit, and so it's pink now. And having it be the ninja of surprise might be a reference to the season 4 episode, The Forgotten Element, where the forgotten element is the element of surprise. But honestly, I don't think that's true, because if this was a reference to the show, they would have just called it the pink ninja, because it's a thing in the show that everybody, the pink ninja. Anyway, and when those are the only things that call back to the show in any way, you can see why the fans were mad. This movie is not adapting any notable storyline or even combination of storylines from the show.
Ninjago is about the team dynamic, and that was not the focus here. And I feel like if you're adapting Ninjago, maybe it should have been.
The only things that they really kept from the show is the ninja, all of their names, the color of their suits, their powers, Garmadon and Wu. And that's it.
A lot of what I was excited to see in a Lego Ninjago movie that I, would have been interested to see everything condensed down into one movie, it's not there.
They did this different stuff with the characters and it turned out good.
Like, I can't say, I like this movie. It's a good movie. It's just not really a Ninjago movie.
And just for reference, compare this to the Lego Batman movie. It is very clear that everybody involved in that really cared about Batman as a character, as a property, cared about Gotham as a world. There are so many videos that will point out the endless Easter eggs in the background, in the animation, in the script, in everything. And the Lego Ninjago movie doesn't even have a fraction of that in reference to its source material. This movie had more effect on the show that came after it than the show had on the movie. The character designs were changed, in my opinion, for the better, but there was a ton of debate about that at the time.
If nothing else, this did give us Man Bun Cole.
The design of Ninjago City changed to match the depiction in the movie. Garmadon was brought back as the villain after 3 seasons of being dead and 5 seasons of being redeemed.
He comes back after this movie came out because the movie was so Garmadon-centric, but I don't necessarily know if he would have if this movie had not had come out, because he had completely exited the story of Ninjago on fine terms by that point.
Then take off your head and throw it at your mom. Now that you're lighter, do a push-up, then out of your neck hole, quack like a duck.
What is this song?
There's a lot of stuff that got changed because of this. I think they all ended up being for the better, but it was a lot of change all at once, so you can understand why people were antsy. And again, the core dynamic in the show is the ninja interacting with each other. And if this was at any level an adaptation of the show, that would also be the focus of the movie. This movie is a good movie. It does a good job. I had a great time with it. But it's also a giant ball of missed potential. And I don't think I ever have a reason to watch it again. I'm not mad at this movie. I can't be mad at this movie. But I am disappointed.